My guest here is Carla Blanton, and she is a consultant, a public relations specialist. She's also a member of the Lexington for Everyone board, and she was there as a proponent to talk about how the city of Lexington needs to expand its urban services area to the maximum. Now, the mandate that council voted on when this passed, 13-2, was to make available 27 to 5,000 acres, 2,700 to 5,000 acres for homes and jobs. What's happening now is a volunteer work group, along with support from the Planning Commission staff, the city's Planning Commission, has the task of identifying which acres will be recommended to the Planning Commission to be included for development within the land use boundary, the urban services area. And Carla Blanton says we got to go the max, or at least that's what her group says. Hey, Carla, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm fine. So we need to do all 5,000 acres, you say?
Well, what we believe is that there certainly is the demand for 5,000 acres, and the Planning Commission staff has done an excellent job of identifying that amount of acreage that can easily be sewered, that wouldn't impact horse farms, that is near infrastructure, all of the things that we talk about that we need and that would make for appropriate inclusion into the urban service boundary. So we really we appreciate the work group, but we ask that they not, there's a feeling among some of them to turn the minimum into the maximum. And we just ask that they really review all of the hard work that the Planning Commission staff has done in terms of identifying suitable areas and not just put all the eggs in the one basket out Winchester Road, which is a great site, but there are other sites that are good out Athens-Boonesboro and some places that people have talked about for years as the place that would be appropriate for additional homes and jobs.
I want to talk to you about one of those areas because I didn't realize this, and I've been following this issue, but maybe this snuck up on me. I don't know. But last night, representatives and owners of Mill Ridge Farm, that's out in the Palomar area, said they're in favor of development of their farm. They want to reduce their farm footprint. They feel like they're already being encroached by residential developments, so now that parcel is on the table for possible development over there between, I guess it's between Dunbar High School and where they're going to be building that new shopping center across from the Palomar Center there on Man of War. Is that right, Carla?
That's right, and that really honestly wasn't something that was on our radar screen either, but I know that the farm is split by Man of War already, and for the reasons that you mentioned are the reasons that they articulated last night. And so, that's not something that we had taken a look at, but it certainly makes sense to consider.
With existing neighborhoods, though, in that area, and they're getting a lot of retail already built up over there, which is going to affect traffic, don't you expect that location is going to get more blowback against the proponents of expansion, particularly in that area, than maybe over around Athens-Boonesboro Road or near Hamburg?
Certainly the Athens-Boonesboro area, which is an area that we identified early on as a natural place, again, because as I've said, it's been talked about for years and years, a lot of developments out there, the interstates there. It certainly makes sense that those areas out there would be included.
Is there a business? Is there an entity that is saying, hey, expansion, and you expand in the right areas, and man, we're all in on Lexington? Is there any outside direction or advice as to where? Because, you just said it, Bob Quick has told us we have to do this. Well, why do we have to do this? Why do we have to do this? Is there, I know we talk about affordable housing, but it's not necessarily guaranteed just because we expand land for development that you're automatically going to get affordable housing. So is there some other pressure from the outside of Lexington to expand so that they can come into Lexington and provide jobs and economic opportunity?
So we know through our partners at Commerce Lexington, which I'm also involved in an organization, we know that there have been 8 companies and 1,500 jobs that have wanted to locate and expand in Lexington and have not been able to, so they've gone to surrounding counties. So we know that those jobs have been lost to Fayette County, and that there are probably another 1,000 existing jobs that are in Lexington with businesses that want to expand and can't find the suitable amount of acreage to accommodate that expansion. So I think there are 10 sites with 10 or fewer acres scattered throughout Fayette County that are shovel ready and ready to go right now. And so that's just not a lot of land. We do have some land that's coming in, that's coming online at Coldstream Park, but that will be snapped up very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm. And I guess no decision could be made on whether or not land is going to be used as part of the urban urban boundary extension until we know whether or not you can get sewers in there, whether or not it's agreeable or acceptable to the infrastructure changes that you're going to have to a particular area if you're going to accommodate people living there and working there, right?
So Charlie Martin, who was over all of that consent decree and over all of the sewering, has been an integral part in this process. And so he is in those committee meetings. He's been part of the planning staff, and in addition to the planning staff, analyzing these areas. So those areas that we've talked about, out Winchester Road, Athens, Boonesboro, and even the ones that you mentioned are ones that can be sewered and would fit in well with the plans that he has to improve the sewerability of the county. So all of the land that the work group is talking about is land that makes sense from a sewer perspective as well.
I guess you saw the letter that the mayor sent to the members of the Planning Commission and the members that heard the public response at the meeting last night. And one of the things that she pointed out is, hey, remember, if you're going to expand the urban services boundary and we got to lay sewers and put in infrastructure, that's going to cost tax dollars. That's going to cost money we don't have. She didn't say there'd be a tax increase. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. What do you say to that the more we expand, there's going to be a price tag connected to that?
Sure. Well, I would say that the developers are the ones who upfront pay for that. If there's any benefit to the city, then the city pays its portion. But any infrastructure improvements in terms of roadway improvements, in terms of sewer improvements to those specific parcels of land, those are borne out by the developer. So there isn't a cost to the city. And then I also would say a couple of other things. If we do support infill and redevelopment, but we think it can't be the only solution. There just isn't enough suitable land for that. But putting pressure on our aging sewer system inside the urban service boundary, I'm sure there are a lot of viewers who, like me, live in a home that was built in the 30s in an old neighborhood where I've had sewage back up into my basement a few times in the last couple of years, and sewer improvements needed to be made on my street because of that. So we've got issues there. And then the other thing I'll say is people might not be aware that Lexington has actually lost population. Mm-hmm. And so as we lose taxpayers, but we still want to maintain the same great city services we have with police and fire and our park system and all of the amenities that we love when we call Lexington home, if we've got fewer taxpayers paying those dollars, and we know from the city that there is a projected shortfall in the budget in the upcoming years, that will in fact guarantee tax increases or cuts in services if we don't grow our population.
You also, on the Lexington for Everyone website, quote Fayette PBA numbers from August of last year that there were no homes built in 2021 under $200,000 that were available to the general public for purchase. I don't know that anybody can build a home now for under $200,000. You might be able to build some apartments where you can, obviously pay rent that's not going to be the size of a mortgage payment of a $200,000 house. But is there any guarantee, or I guess the mayor is mandating, or can she mandate that some acreage be set aside for affordable housing? If so, what would you suspect, Carla? Half of the 5,000 acres, a quarter of the 5,000 acres would be held for so-called affordable housing? How do we guarantee that more land means we're going to get some homes under $200,000 available to the public to be able to purchase?
So I'm not a legal expert. I don't know that there can be a mandate under current law, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Right.
Any kind of affordable housing, as you mentioned, you can't build a house for $200,000. So it's going to require a public-private partnership. It's going to require some public dollars that are put into to augment and bridge the gap between what it costs to build a home and what land costs are. Our point is that it's a simple case of supply and demand. If there's not enough land, then that land price is going to go up and up. I was talking to an affordable housing nonprofit organization just the other day, and they used to be able to purchase a lot for about $17,000. The lots that they're now purchasing are $62,000. So when you look at that astronomical leap in just a short amount of time, you can't build a house for $200,000. Even this nonprofit that specializes in building low-income housing can't do that. They need some assistance. So the city has, in recent years, made an increased commitment, but I think we just need to see that more and more, that public-private partnership in trying to get those homes built. Even a house for, the median home price now is $345,000. I think when Lexington for Everyone started, it was under $200,000. That was just a couple years ago. There's been a 100% increase in 10 years. So the housing crunch is real for people at all levels of the spectrum in terms of being able to find a house.
And I guess going forward, Carla, the Planning Commission has until the end of next year to make their decision as to where the expansion will take place. Is that correct? And is their decision final?
No, actually, so it's kind of maybe a three-phase process. I would say the work group is going to make a recommendation to the Planning Commission, but the Planning Commission in fairly short order will need to make that recommendation, because then the next step, once they've identified land, there will have to be a master plan. So a consultant will come in and put meat on the bones in terms of what does this expansion look like? How do we want it to operate? What are the mechanisms for bringing the land in? And that needs to be accomplished by December of 2024. So the Planning Commission will really need to make their decision this year, and I'm not sure exactly when that would be, but they'll need to move fairly quickly as well.
Will there be any more public meetings or public hearings like last night before that happens?
I would assume that once the work group makes its recommendation, that the Planning Commission will have public input. They do a great job of doing that. They're used to doing it with zone changes, with the comprehensive plan. So it's a pretty well-oiled machine organization to ensure that there's public input. And I can't speak on their behalf, but I would be very surprised if there wouldn't be another opportunity for the public to weigh in.
All right. Well, we'll look for that and we'll follow this. Carla, I appreciate your time this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks. Appreciate it, Kruser.
Carla Blanton, she represents Lexington for Everyone. She's on the board, and they believe the community deserves the maximum in terms of expanding the urban services area for more expansion for economic opportunity and housing. We shall see where it goes.